Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by the following: IU Health Southern Indiana physicians, primary care and specialty care providers now accepting new patients in Bloomington and throughout South Central Indiana. siphysicians.org. IU Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research, working to improve cybersecurity and provide policy guidance through partnerships with industry, government, and academia. Main Source Bank, headquartered in Greensburg, Indiana, offering products and services to fit every stage of life. More information at mainsourcebank.com. Main Source, life needs a great bank. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Smithville Fiber, the Gigacity Company, fiber internet, HD, and digital IPTV in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com.
And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk, the Trump-Pence administration has promised to bring change to the federal government. Next, we'll look at two big issues that will affect Hoosiers. First, the Affordable Care Act. 168,000 Hoosiers are currently enrolled in the health insurance program. Ahead, confusion about whether the insurance they have will still be good a year from now.
It sounded like the first day that President Trump takes office, everything would disappear, according to campaign promises.
Plus, Trump wants to eliminate a rule known as Waters of the U.S. Hoosier farmers have been fighting against the new regulations, and now they're anxiously waiting to see if the president-elect can follow through on his promise.
We've seen what happens in Flint, Michigan when you try to take your drinking water from a polluted river. It just does not work.
Those stories, plus the latest news headlines from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Hoosier farmers and environmentalists are waiting to see if President-elect Donald Trump will follow through on a campaign promise to eliminate some clean water regulations. Now, Trump says on his website he wants to do away with the revised Waters of the U.S. rule, which dictates what waters the Environmental Protection Agency can regulate. As Barbara Brozier reports, experts say it's not that simple.
When you drive through rural Boone County, the landscape doesn't change much. Mile after mile, you come across farms like this one, which Don Lamb runs with his family.
The field behind us was a seed corn field, so it was a field that was raised that will be bagged for seed to sell to farmers next year.
The Lambs grow corn and soybeans on about 8,500 acres near Lebanon, and much of their success depends on two factors: soil and water quality.
Conserving water and using water to its fullest is really important to us.
Lamb says he works hard to prevent erosion on his farm and plants cover crops to retain water in his soil during the winter. He worries some of his daily activities would be regulated closely by the EPA under a revised version of its Waters of the U.S. rule, which is currently on hold as it makes its way through the court system. The rule expands the definition of waterways regulated by the EPA to include tributaries, which it defines as any waterway that has a bed, bank, and high water mark. Lamb says the definition is broad, making it unclear what features on his farm would require permits, and he doesn't know what that permitting process would involve or cost.
It is scary to think that any bit of water that goes across your farm or your property anywhere could be regulated by the federal government, simply because that is, to me, that's an awfully big overreach in what the federal government is supposed to do.
So Lamb's hoping President-elect Donald Trump will deliver on his promise to eliminate the rule. The Indiana Farm Bureau also wants to see changes to Waters of the U.S., but says it may not be as easy as Trump makes it sound.
The reality is that they just can't say, well, we're not going to do it. There's a final rule, and they will have to either start a new rulemaking to amend or withdraw that rule.
There are three ways change could come about. The federal appeals court could rule on a case filed by Indiana and more than a dozen other states that challenges the rule. That court already placed a stay on the new interpretation of Waters of the U.S. Congress could also take action, or Trump could issue an executive order asking the EPA to withdraw the rule.
The administration, what you're going to see, they're going to have to take a step back they're going to have to look at this particular issue, once the transition team's in place and people are paying attention.
Talk of doing away with the revised definition of waters of the U.S. has environmental groups that support it worried. The EPA says the revised rule was drafted to improve and simplify the process of identifying waters protected under the Clean Water Act.
The rule is legally sound, it's scientifically sound, and it is legally and scientifically sound because they took all of that care in writing it.
Indra Frank is a policy advisor at the Hoosier Environmental Council. She says the rule isn't a burden to farmers because it provides agricultural exemptions, and its focus is on keeping all water clean.
We certainly don't want our rivers and streams to be polluted, right? We get drinking water from our rivers and streams, and we've seen what happens in Flint, Michigan when you try to take your drinking water from a polluted river. It just does not work.
If you stand right here and look, there's a real small swale that goes across that field right there.
Back on the Lamb farm, Don points out a narrow path in the middle of a field that fills with water on rainy days. He can't stop thinking about all of the what-ifs.
To me, that's an example of an area. I'm not sure how they would regulate that.
It's unclear when the courts could weigh in on waters of the U.S. So for now, all Lamb and the rest of the country can do is wait to see which of Trump's stances are rhetoric and which will become reality. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Barbara Brosier.
The revised version of Waters of the U.S. doesn't just impact the agricultural industry. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce's senior vice president said in a statement the rule makes it more difficult to create opportunities and jobs. The EPA says in a statement on its website it believes the revised rule is consistent with current law. Now for headlines, we go over to Barbara Brosier, who has the latest on this week's top stories.
Thanks, Joe. President-elect Donald Trump took to Twitter to talk about Hoosier jobs once again, this time taking aim at a local union president. Trump wrote that Chuck Jones, who is president of United Steelworkers Union 1999, quote, has done a terrible job representing workers. No wonder companies flee country. The tweet comes after Jones criticized Trump for inflating the number of jobs that will be saved at Carrier's Indianapolis facility. Jones held a press conference this morning to respond.
If Trump is sincere about keeping jobs in the country, and you guys have heard him numerous times, that's what his goal is, we'll sit down, we'll work out something to keep these damn jobs here.
Trump claimed more than 1,100 jobs would be saved, but the real number is 800. Leaders at an Islamic school in Indianapolis say they've received overwhelming support after someone sent them a hateful letter last week.
Sent us letters, sent us flowers, called us, came, dropped by without, just surprise visits, hugging people, saying, understand that we're here in all of this, we're all in it, all in this together, so don't worry.
Indiana is one of 5 states that doesn't have a hate crimes law. The number of hate crimes against Muslims is going up nationally. According to FBI data, they increased 67% from 2014 to 2015. The Indiana Finance Authority says Indiana's water utilities have immediate infrastructure needs, totaling more than $2.3 billion. The IFA found new investments are needed for things like water treatment plants, distribution pipes, and fire hydrants right now. It prioritized replacing old water service lines, some of which date back to the late 1800s. After that initial investment, utilities surveyed say they still need about $815 million annually to cover basic upgrades and replacement costs. The Indiana Finance Authority is also recommending a new water infrastructure funding program. The General Assembly passed a bill in March 2016 to mandate that report. The Indiana Commission to Combat Drug Abuse will begin meeting in 2017. It is the permanent version of the governor's task force on drug enforcement, treatment, and prevention. The original task force made 19 recommendations, including endorsing opioid prescribing guidelines and recommending changes to the state's drug monitoring task system.
What was very unique about what the task force accomplished, for the first time many state agencies had the opportunity to work together in a unified way on a particular problem.
The new task force will also be focused on directing policy and working with the legislature to address the state's drug epidemic. The marching band at Columbus North High School is hoping to make a trip to D.C. to celebrate one of the school's most prominent graduates. Vice President-elect Mike Pence grew up in Columbus, and as Hallie Pilot reports, the students at his high school want to march in the inaugural parade next month.
The Sound of North, the marching band at Columbus North High School, is practicing for its upcoming holiday concert. There are 170 kids in the band, freshmen to seniors, and they're hoping for the opportunity to perform for their biggest audience yet. After Trump and Pence won the election, band director Bill Stultz contacted the representative for Columbus, Milo Smith, and asked what he'd need to do to get his band to D.C.
He was excited about it, so in fact, he even talked to Mike Pence, and Mike Pence said he wanted to see Milo try to make it happen.
Representative Smith is leading the fundraising efforts. The group needs $125,000 to participate in the parade.
Obviously, this was something we had not expected, and we just have not budgeted for it, so we're going to need community help on this.
The money will allow every student and faculty member to go to the inauguration and maybe even fit in some sightseeing.
I don't think people quite understand fully how amazing it would be to be there in the Capitol when the inauguration's happening, and it's more than just sightseeing, it's really being there to witness a piece of history.
Marching in the parade would be an exciting opportunity for band member Kathleen Hagley, who voted in her first election this year.
So since I voted in it, it's really cool to see how my vote made a difference. So it's going to be really cool to go there and march and see the democratic process and everything.
The band hasn't talked directly to Pence, but Representative Smith told Stultz that as long as the band can raise enough money to get there, Pence says they are welcome to play at the parade. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Hallie Pilot.
And Joe, the band was hoping to raise the money they needed by today. Last I checked, they have a little ways to go, but what an amazing opportunity if they can get there.
Very exciting. I'm sure they'll make it.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Barbara. And coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk, we'll take a look at open enrollment. Deadlines are coming up quickly, but will the marketplace be affected by November's election? And we'll take you to a part of Indiana that is getting a lot of snow, but not from the sky. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
Nature takes you places where you've never gone before.
It's watching something that's actually happened.
Nature sure drew me in the story.
Just their power and their grace.
You know, it was just so beautiful to watch them.
The movement and just watching the body and watching the chase.
Like this huge, lush, vibrant watercolor.
James.
There was such a shot of underneath watching these elephants swim in this deep water.
I had no idea even they could swim like that.
I saw one monkey pulling on this one monkey's tail, and the monkey like, man, what you doing? What you doing?
It's like the theater of the wild or something.
7 billion trillion animals living on one planet.
It's like more colorful than than you think life can possibly be.
Somewhere between the mystique and the beauty of it is reason enough to sit down and watch.
That's life, and that's nature.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says Congress will act early next year to repeal President Barack Obama's health care law. And on 60 Minutes, Speaker of the House Paul Ryan says repealing the Affordable Care Act will be the #1 priority of Congress. As J.D. Gray reports, the uncertain future of the health care program is making some policyholders apprehensive during open enrollment.
At the Indianapolis Enrollment Assistance Center, people are stopping by to learn about their options for health insurance plans on the open marketplace that was created as a part of the Affordable Care Act.
We're here to help you. We're here to listen, talk through it. We are easing people's feelings and their emotions and to find the best plan that's eligible for you.
Bauer says one man came in and his monthly payments dropped by around $400 a month.
Common question, first question, how much is it? How much is it? So we tell them to sit down with us, bring your income information, and we'll definitely go through that with them about how much it is. We can give them an estimate, but there's nothing like knowing the real numbers for you and your family.
Enrollment opened for 2017 on November 1st. The deadline for coverage beginning January 1st is December 15th, and open enrollment closes on January 31st.
This is year 4 that this year a lot of people have been excited about enrolling. They have a lot more questions, and this has been one of our largest enrollment seasons yet. So we're pretty excited. And the day after the election, there was 100,000 Americans that actually enrolled in a marketplace plan.
But it's the election that is leading to a sense of uncertainty surrounding the marketplace. President-elect Donald Trump promised during his campaign to change the healthcare system.
I think that the reason we have all these questions about when might change happen, if change is going to happen, is that it sounded imminent. It sounded like the first day that President Trump takes office, everything would disappear, according to campaign promises, right?
It's making some ask how a potentially changing healthcare system may affect their coverage.
For the short-term future, the prognosis is simply, there's nothing that will immediately stop the marketplace plans. So the next year, it's unlikely that things are going to change in what's available.
If Trump tries to repeal and replace the law through Congress, Simon says it would take a majority vote in the Senate, requiring a filibuster-proof move to change the ACA law.
The coverage that starts this open enrollment period for 2017 is something that insurance companies have already designed and put into play, well earlier this year. So they cannot just change the prices on you. They cannot, the amount of money that the government has put into providing premiums that are as low as they are, that's there for now. What can change very quickly is whether insurance companies have confidence about whether they're going to take part in the marketplaces in 2018.
According to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, Hoosiers make up over 168,000 of the 11 million Americans enrolled in health care programs as of March. As for open enrollment this year, many Hoosiers will be reevaluating their options. Some vendors left the marketplace this year, and they won't be available in 2017. But people who opt to forego insurance will face a penalty. That fee is either 2.5% of your household income or a per-person fee that maxes out at $2,085.
For the coming year, for 2017, we really think that under most possible scenarios, life goes on as normal for the availability of plans, and so this is not something that people should wonder, should I sign up today thinking maybe in January this will all go away immediately, and would I have paid for something to gain nothing? We don't. The scenarios that are possible just don't point toward that happening.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm J.D. Gray.
One part of the Affordable Care Act that could be on the chopping block mandates insurance plans cover all forms of birth control. As Becca Costello reports, that has many women looking for a long-acting contraceptive that will remain effective even if insurance rules change.
Tori Winter is a sophomore at Indiana University studying education. She used the birth control pill for years, but without insurance, she was paying for it out of pocket. Then she was accepted into the Healthy Indiana plan, right before Donald Trump and Mike Pence won the presidential election. Winter decided it was time to get an intrauterine device. It's a T-shaped piece of plastic inserted into the uterus that can last up to 12 years.
I don't have to spend the next 10 years worrying about, am I still going to have my government health insurance? Am I going to have to start paying for my birth control out of pocket? I can't afford it out of pocket.
IUDs are more than 99% effective, partly because once they're inserted, there's nothing a woman needs to do to maintain the effectiveness. But IUDs are also the most expensive form of birth control, with an upfront cost ranging from $500 to $2,000. Gynecologists say they see a lot of patients like Winter, women on a tight budget who are worried about how changes to the Affordable Care Act could impact their health.
So there have been women in my office, and I myself am concerned about my patients who are no longer going to have, that option if they have to pay out of pocket.
Mahern says she's seen more interest than usual in the long-term contraceptive options like IUDs. That trend seems to be across the country. The number of Google searches for IUD spiked in the days immediately following the election. For women like Winter, cost isn't the only consideration. She's also concerned about the influence of Vice President-elect Mike Pence. This year, he signed one of the most restrictive abortion laws in the country, which has since been challenged in court by the American Civil Liberties Union.
I was concerned that now that he's in a position of obviously much greater power, that I would wind up in a situation that, you know, is not ideal, and not even just be able to go to a neighboring state. Like, the options would be like out of country or illegal.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Becca Costello.
Joining us now is David Gamage. He is a professor at Indiana University's Maurer School of Law. Thank you so much for being here today. So now we know President-elect Trump can change the Affordable Care Act through Congress. Is this most likely the path that he will have to take?
Certainly for any major changes, anything that would be considered a substantial reform. There are various smaller interpretive regulatory measures that the president could do unilaterally along with the Treasury Department and HHS, Health and Human Services. But for anything that would be a widespread, anything that would be considered a major reform, Congress is needed.
So those at the enrollment center say they've seen a lot of people signing up for insurance since the election. So what does that signal in terms of its influence to the potential changes then of the system?
What does large numbers of people enrolling? It shows probably uncertainty about what's coming next. So specifically under the Affordable Care Act, as long as the law remains as it is, there's no non-discrimination against those of pre-existing conditions. So whatever health condition you develop, you can still get insurance. That may or may not be the case in the future. Many, if not most, of the Republican replacement plans that have been bandied about would not contain at least as strong protections for those of pre-existing conditions. So it's quite possible this is a one-shot deal. If you don't sign up for insurance now, you may no longer be under those protections later. Well, we don't know that those who do sign up for insurance now necessarily will have protection, depending on what changes, but it's entirely possible the law could change to allow those who have coverage to keep it, while not offering nearly as much opportunities for those who don't currently have coverage.
You know, I've heard a lot about broadening the buy-in to this. Is that still an issue, though?
As in bringing more people to exchanges?
Yes.
Absolutely. Experts differ on how stable the exchanges are, and it's very state by state. The exchange marketplaces are in much better conditions in some states than in others, and most experts think in at least some states, as things are, the marketplaces are fragile. And for the marketplaces to be sustainable long run, under current law, you need a larger group of especially younger, healthier insureds. Otherwise, there's the possibility of what's called race to the bottom, where too many sicker, often more elderly insureds enter the exchange plans, which causes insurance companies to drive up prices, which drives away more younger, healthier enrolleds, and the whole exchange market could potentially collapse.
So we just have a few seconds left, but what would be the major differences in a Trump plan versus what's happening now?
There's so many different possible replacement plans being discussed, and not great clarity on what we're likely to see. But among key differences, many of the replacement plans have less generous subsidies, often much less generous subsidies for purchasing insurance, and many of them have much weaker protections for those with pre-existing conditions. So if you end up with some type of health condition, it might become much harder to get health insurance.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
This week marks the 75th anniversary of the attacks on Pearl Harbor. As Lindsay Wright reports, a Japanese American living in Indiana witnessed the attacks firsthand.
The attack on Pearl Harbor is a day captured in history, an event that changed the world. Many veterans recall it as the moment they decided to enlist in the U.S. military. But Betty Togikawa was just 10 years old, living in Honolulu when chaos struck.
We were there across the street from Pearl Harbor and watching Arizona go into flames. And later on, someone said, I don't know how that person knew, but he also saw the red rising star on a plane. So he said, you know, guys, we better go home.
That's because Togikawa's family was from Japan. She was the only one with full U.S. citizenship, and she says after the attacks, thoughts of her family possibly being separated took a toll on her.
I remember I couldn't eat for about 2 weeks. I ate very little, because the fear just gets hold of you.
Togikawa's family ended up staying at a shelter together, but she says there are no winners in war, and she understands the fear and loneliness that comes with it. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Lindsay Wright.
Togikawa eventually ended up in Indiana, where she raised her kids. Well, there is snow on the ground, and while it's true we haven't received any measurable snowfall so far this year, it did get cold enough this week that crews at Paoli Peaks were able to start making snow for the recreational ski and snowboarding park. The past few years have been a struggle at Paoli because of unusually warm winters. Fingers crossed, but Paoli is hoping to open at least some of its runs this month. And that's the end of this program. More work online at WTIUnews.org.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by the following: IU Health Southern Indiana physicians, primary care and specialty care providers now accepting new patients in Bloomington and throughout South Central Indiana. siphysicians.org. IU Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research, working to improve cybersecurity and provide policy guidance through partnerships with industry, government, and academia. Main Source Bank, headquartered in Greensburg, Indiana, offering products and services to fit every stage of life. More information at mainsourcebank.com. Main Source, life needs a great bank. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Smithville Fiber, the Gigacity Company. Fiber Internet, HD, and digital IPTV in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com.
And by WTIU members.